Hello and welcome. My name is Celeste Rajczi, and I have the absolute honor and privilege to be the very first guest host of the One Step Ahead podcast that is being launched by the very one and only Kendall Colman of Colman Coaching. And as I introduce the One Step Ahead podcast for the very first time, I just want to present that this is a space that's going to be exploring the skills and the habits, the strategies, the partnerships, and the innovations that are really required to navigate a world that is changing faster than ever. And so, as
Mm.
I pass this over, I want to start by asking you, Kendall, where where did the idea for this podcast come from for you, and why now?
Mm. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, first of all, for volunteering and for allowing me to experience you being the first guest host, and I'm thrilled about that. And there's just so much uncertainty right now that I'm feeling in this world right now. And this could be probably the same if somebody watches this a year from now. So uncertainty is something that we all are living with. And my goal with starting this podcast is imagine for a second that you wake up one day realizing that you have been coaching leaders for the past 25 years who are innovators, who are futurists, who are bringing forward innovations in every industry, and realizing you have a gold mine of people that could help others stay one step ahead in this current environment, whether that be through healthcare, whether that be through clean energy and ways that people can lower their electrical costs, and banking and strategies for banking and how to really stay one step ahead of finances and making the most of your money, staying one step ahead in your career, and what are all the new hacks and habits that people who want to kind of, maybe you're in a job but you also want to advance your career, and so what are those absolute tools that you need to have in your quiver to help make that happen so that you are staying one step ahead. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the goal. Is I just woke up realizing I have so many people in my network that I would love to interview and have them share their work that they've spent their entire life doing to help everyone who's just trying to stay one step ahead, not only survive right now, but thrive.
Mm, so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I love what you shared about really that imagery of a gold mine in your network, in your relationships, and seeing that really when it comes to facing the uncertainty of the times that we're in, things that are changing. And like you said, whether somebody's listening to this this year in 2026 or in the years to come, life is uncertain, right? The world is unknown, the future is unknown, and that appears to be accelerating, right? But that when we lean in on our community and our network, right, to be able to share and platform the voices of people who have really deep experience in all these areas, we really have an opportunity to not just survive, but thrive and feel like we're aligned with that energy of being one step ahead rather than trying to keep up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, because the keeping up energy has us depleted,
Mhm.
burnt out, unexcited to get out of bed in the morning without that compelling way that's pulling us forward, versus, okay, I've got my toolkit, I've got the mindsets, the mindfulness, the hacks, the good stuff I'm supposed to be putting in my body, and now I can not only stay one step ahead, but I can now also help others so that we can lift hearts and minds together.
Beautiful. And you spoke to pieces, industries around the banking or um, just finance or clean energy, but I love that you just presence that too, that it's not just mindset, but it's a whole body approach to what it means to be one step ahead. This is not your conventional, traditional career podcast around,
Right.
just, staying ahead for the sake of competition. I'm hearing that there's really this energy of holistic well-being that's at the foundation of what it means to be able to be one step ahead, not just, maybe mentally or strategically, but as a human being, right? To be embodied
Yeah.
in that energy of proactive success creation rather than reactive
Yeah.
keeping up. So, could you maybe speak a little bit more about this? I know that you've been described in your own career and by the clients that you serve as really being a holistic coach. So, how does that approach get infused into the philosophy of the One Step Ahead podcast as well? I'm curious.
Mm. Yeah, I absolutely felt like I spent most of my childhood hanging on by my nails to get through the day. And whether it be keeping up with, just one step ahead against the bullies that I knew I was going to face at school, or the coach that was going to push me on, why I may be a little bit behind others in my 1 minute mile, or not 1 minute mile, but my mile, or whatever it was. Like, I always felt like I was just hanging on, and I just needed to get through the day. And then when I realized through some very young experiences where I did, really try some pretty big self-sabotage to silence myself, really, that's really what I was doing. Because as a kid, I had a lot of great ideas. I felt almost intuitive that I could sense that things were going to happen. And then of course I tested that, and then that it was true. And so I knew I had something going on in terms of that I could sense things. And I would share that, and then I would get made fun of, or I was even told, don't share those good ideas because you're going to outshine the boys.
Mm,
And so what I ended up doing was just really kind of stuffing all those ideas down and really just trying to hang on. Then I got a mentor early when I was 15 years old, and she taught me a completely new playbook of using our intuitive gifts, use to stay one step ahead, to sense what's coming, to start kind of bending it towards our favor and towards how we could then make our own life better, and then make others' lives better. And so the mind aspect of meditation and intuition and even psychic abilities, helping people understand that we all have these gifts. We just need somebody to help guide and not make it scary and not make it seem like there's something wrong with you, that you can kind of sense how things should go, but that you begin to now trust that energy to guide your way, to know. I mean, just we were in Denver 2 days ago, and we were supposed to leave Monday. Big blizzard. The roads looked like they were kind of clear, but intuition was like, it's an absolute no. We're not going today. Don't know why. So we just skipped and went the next day. Now we can do that. But that's just one example of really being able to let your energy then guide your way to create new innovations, to give somebody a new spotlight, project on your team. Maybe you get a sense somebody's kind of like starting to get the doldrums at work, so you help them and give them a special project so they restart. So there's all sorts of ways that we can then use that positive foresight to guide our teams, to guide our innovations, and guide our companies.
beautiful. Really powerful perspective on just, yeah, leaning into our intuitive gifts and the way that that is giving us an opportunity to align with that one step ahead energy. And just, as as your audience gets to grow and people tune in, really who is this podcast intended for? Who are you hoping and dreaming will find this resource and utilize it as a tool to help them experience the one step ahead shift for the way they go through life?
Great. Yeah, great question. I mean, I really see it for everyone. I mean, if people are struggling and feeling like they don't have any options, or want to direct their life in a more intentional way, and want to use coaching skills, but also speaking skills to improve the way that our life is going. So really it's for people who might feel like maybe they're kind of tired of the victim energy that they might be showing up with. And I say that because I've been there with myself, where I blamed a lot of people for my circumstance. And it was when that mentor helped me really step into being an owner of my life, and that everything was getting created because of me and because of the way I was showing up. Um, and then taught me how to replace those, stinking thinking, or comparison. I was riddled with comparing myself to others as a child, and of course, you always show, you always turn out not nearly as great as they do, and and so if you're finding that you're experiencing a lot of resistance, that this podcast will give you some new ways of working with resistance and moving towards creating that more of an ownership based life where I have beliefs of an owner and I reinforce those beliefs on a daily basis through meditation. That might be some what I call subconscious reorienting statements. So if I feel like my gifts are my gifts unique, I might change that to say, my gifts, I am gifted and unique. I am here to serve those who are ready.
Mhm.
That might be, I can see my internet is, hopefully you're catching this.
That's okay. I'm
Um,
hearing you perfectly.
but being able to reorient those statements. So now I have a positive belief system, and then I add positive language that has me moving forward and taking ownership of my life. So instead of like, if only somebody would help me, I would be more successful,
Mm.
it turns into, I will commit to getting the resources I need to be successful. So it's a language shift also. And we look at what are those limiting words that are slipping into my daily practice, into my daily life, that could be bringing down the vibe of what I can offer and
Mhm.
what I'm also attracting. And then the third area then we would look at, so it's the belief system, the language that we use, and then the third would be then the actions that I'm taking
Mhm.
that are driving myself towards more of an ownership mindset.
Beautiful. So really, so this is a broad, sweeping podcast for those who are really looking to get out of that resistance and perhaps victim energy around where the world is going, how fast it's moving, how unknown things are, right? And you really being a stand for bringing, through the wealth, the gold mine, as you said, of resources, of individuals, of leaders in your network and in your community to really highlight and platform the perspectives that speak to these kinds of tools around mindset shift, around belief work, around reprogramming language to really help us become owners of our lives and it sounds like owners of our futures as well.
Yeah. Right, because I mean, really, we do have the capacity to be on purpose and if we're not happy with our life at this moment, we have that power to change it starting today. And those are the leaders that I'll be bringing onto the podcast to help people understand that yes, I might be a leader of a healthcare technology company, but I'm also really making sure that I'm leading the way, with my beliefs about us,
Mm.
with my language that describes us, and then the actions that are really getting us then showcased and our great work showcased in a way that has investors wanting to invest and wanting stakeholders to be a part of it and wanting employees to come to work every day.
Hmm. Beautiful. I'm hearing this really overarching theme of just being more intuitively led, that the edge that it gives us to lean into intuition and the stories that you can highlight of so many leaders across different industries about the ways that that's practically being applied in a professional context and creating amazing, results on it from a team culture to a bottom line, the shifts that are happening and that there's also just this next level of opportunity to be deeply intentional about the way that we are within ourselves and the way that that translates into the way we embody leadership for our teams and in our industries. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it was really listening to you talking with one of my former clients, Mike Lacey,
Mm.
that really made me realize that, and that's a great interview if anybody wants to hear from a leader who has experienced coaching, but really it's about his journey, but it's also about how he shows up for those 1,200 employees that he's leading every day with his mindsets, with his language, with his actions that he takes.
Mhm.
And that is very prescriptive to a large degree because he and I worked through what are some of the ways that are show that that he was showing up that was either gaining momentum on his team or losing it. And so it honestly helped spark this beautiful into to motion.
Amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm so for those who are going to be tuning in and maybe
Yes,
hearing
yes.
about you and your beautiful body of work, having been speaker coach for over 25 years, maybe for the first time, can you give us a little bit of a sense of what your journey has been to arrive into this seat, to have built this beautiful network of industry leaders that you've been coaching now for decades and really helping to impact and influence their culture and their teams and their success? How did you get to this seat, Kendall? Tell us a little bit
Mm.
about the defining moments that shaped how you lead today and the way that you help others lead.
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, I became very interested in potential in people at a very young age. What helps somebody be successful, whether it be at academia or whether it be at sports? Those are kind of the first two things you're introduced to.
Mhm.
And and also how culture really gets created. And cultures inside families, cultures inside communities, towns, cities, states, countries, etc. How does that how does the culture happen? And the culture really gets happens through meetings and through communication, the way people talk. And what I realized is really nothing happens in business outside of conversation.
Mm.
And so as a young person, I really struggled. That is part of my journey is I struggled with finding my voice. I struggled with having any confidence to speak up. And I was, as a young person, really circling the drain. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it wasn't a good situation. And but I was really talented at field hockey. So I had a coach who tapped me on the shoulder, pulled me aside, and said, "You're way off track. And in fact, you're going to do some damage to yourself or someone else." But I think if we channel this, I think if we channel, and I teach you leadership practices and I teach you different skills I want you to do, and you work with me and you listen to me and only me, then I have faith that you're going to get yourself, not only are we going to start playing well, but you're going to get yourself on a good track.
Mhm.
And so I owe my entire life really to my coach Sue Carlson because that's what she did. And I said, you know what? I'm really circling the drain here. I'm going to do what she's suggesting. And so that was really the first step is admitting that I was in my own way.
Mm.
And that was a significant moment because I had to give up my ego. And so I started doing what she said, and I was there early, and I was doing all the grunt work, and I did everything she told me to do. And we started winning. And I started getting started really getting a lot of goals. And all of a sudden the team was like, wow, we really like what Kendall is doing. How about if we make her captain? And so then I became in this leadership role. And now I couldn't be in the way because they needed me. And
Mhm.
so it was such a big example to me early in life about getting out of the way and and really truly showing up for others and that we go so much farther together.
Mm.
And so then we started winning, and then we started winning state, and they were sending me to Olympics training camp, and I was getting, like it didn't matter what happened after that in terms of the path, because I ended up not going um, towards wanting to be a collegiate athlete like that. But it set my life in motion to being of service to others. And so I quickly became a speaker. I was going around the state of Wisconsin talking to other kids groups around self-esteem and having a mentor. And all of a sudden, like all the rooms were starting to fill up and I was getting more and more nervous about my own, that I'd never been a public speaker. I'm only 17 years old and I'm out speaking. And and so as a result, fast forward a little bit, I had an opportunity of getting promoted early, and I totally bombed my first presentation because they weren't my peers anymore. It was now to medical directors, and I was working for a hospital corporation. And I remember just totally bombing the presentation and going to my car and sobbing And and when the tears dried, after feeling like I'd let everybody down, I thought, you know what? This is a muscle, just like I learned how to be an athlete. This is exactly the same thing. And so I got a coach and at a young age, and I created the program with that person. I created the program that saved me and gave me the permission to speak up. And so that is the program that I'm still teaching today. I've cured hundreds of people of stage fright. That's one group, and then I've helped speakers who are already really good and charismatic, and now really help them to scale their companies with that skill. And so, really, it was because of a coach that I became a coach. It was also a coach that saved my life, no doubt about. I have no doubt that she saved my life. And then all the mentors in between. Highly recommend having a mentor for every stage of life.
Hmm. So inspiring to hear that. Did you know that I also played field hockey in high school?
No, you did? Oh my gosh. Oh, we'll have
Yeah.
to we'll have to get the sticks out.
So
Oh, how
crazy.
great.
And that was the
We're in
first, that
California?
was the first, yeah, yeah, in Los Gatos. And that was the first coach that I ever had that really called me out for my potential too on that team.
Wow.
So
Oh,
just,
fist
just,
bump.
yeah, I know, so exciting. That's so beautiful. Yeah, that's such a beautiful sport and so relatable. Certainly from my own direct experience, but I'm sure just, that journey of where we start, like the first place where, your potential is is seen or recognized by somebody else and you're called forward into that, the power of having somebody else see more being possible for you than you maybe see for yourself, but you deeply, through their reflection, through their support, you can access that deeper sense of believing that it's possible for you too, right? And then there's that journey that we go on. So thank you for
Yeah.
saying yes to yourself, saying yes to that support to be who you
And
are.
and and to be honest, I mean, it really was my only option at that point that was left for me because I was just in an environment where there were a lot of bullies, to be honest, and they were not the encouraging bullies. They're not the bullies that say, "Hey, I see that you could probably, pack the room with 200 people. I'm going to challenge you." Not that kind of bully.
Motivational bullies. Yeah, motivational bullies versus the degrading bullies, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And and so I mean I was pretty low, I mean I was getting pushed into lockers, I was getting my work tipped over, I was not being talked to in a nice way, and I internalized that
Mm,
because I didn't know any other. So I it wasn't that I ever kind of felt like I was making a mistake during my life. I felt like I was the mistake.
mm,
And so I really like took that shame
mm,
internal. And really it was Sue Carlson who said, there's another path. And I'm going to show you what that is. And that's why I am so passionate about like my one of my taglines is coaches for life,
mm,
because there to me that is one of the most important jobs in the world right now is to be an encourager and to be the whisperer in somebody's ear who says, I know that I see what you can do. I see what you've got.
mhm,
And are you willing to set aside these ankle grabbers and people who throw anchors around you as a way they go through life? That's the way they go through life.
yeah.
That's none of my business. My business is to be the whisperer that says, "Oh no, we can do more
Mm.
and let's go."
So inspiring. Thank you for sharing your reflections and your lived experience. And I hear you.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, what if we could create the tipping point right here, right now, by
mhm.
having more encouragers than we have bullies,
It starts here.
right?
Yeah, it starts here.
Starts here. Yeah.
And you speak to that energy of the shift, right? That shift that's available to us, going one path versus maybe a mentor or a coach or a podcast, right? The right resource at the right time, helping us see that maybe there's another path, there's another choice that we just didn't have awareness of before. And there's this
Yeah.
distinction that you make, and I know that with the guests that you'll continue bringing onto this podcast around what it is to be in that energy of success, right? Defining success maybe as this one step ahead energy archetype, or versus that energy of struggle, right? And the patterns of struggle that we find ourselves in, which, can be that essentially clawing to try and keep up, right? Keeping up in a changing world, feeling like we're always that one step behind, right? So just with that clear distinction of what those two ways of being are. I'm curious if
Yeah.
we can go into both of them, but specifically around that energy of success, I'd love if you could tell us about a time when you really maybe pushed yourself to learn something new or were in a challenging situation and you used one of your tools. I know you've gathered an amazing, repertoire of tools over the last several decades, but you found success using a tool that you regularly now teach your clients. What would be an example of that?
Yeah. Well, one thing I love to do before, and I did this for this podcast, is I
Hmm.
love to ask myself just three questions to get myself oriented around what's the container and what's the space that I really want to create for people to be able to learn, right? Public speaking is the number one fear. And so my job, first and foremost, is to create a safe place where people want to come and practice because we most likely will fail in some way no matter what we'll always find the way that we could have even done it a little bit better. But I like to start with asking myself just three questions. And the first one is, what do I want my audience to know? What do I want them to know from this presentation, whether it be facts and figures and data, and or that you got to know that we're the right team for this, or that yeah, we're going to go through some bumps right now, but right around the corner from those bumps is a smooth, a smooth path. So, what do you really want them to walk away knowing? And that's where we activate the mind. So, it's very important that in this section, that's part of what we teach is how to now package your work in a way that has it um, really being understood mentally from the cerebral aspect that we know the audience wants to know. That could also be your research, the research shows or experience shows, and you bring this in. The second question then is, how do you want people to feel? So even today, I want people to feel like, oh, I could come to Kendall and Celeste's show today, and I can really get some valuable tools that will anchor me in the here and now and help me orient myself forward, knowing that I can choose my mindsets, my beliefs, my language, and my actions. Like imagining them walking away feeling confident, feeling committed, feeling inspired. So we can pull, as the speakers, we can pull those threads of how we want people to feel. For example, when we work with FEMA, what we is one of our clients, sometimes they're not delivering great news, but we want them to really have their audience feel that that they're there to support, that they're there to that this is going to be a little bit rough for us as a community, but we've got this and this is how.
Mhm.
So we as the speaker can make sure to sprinkle in those feeling states so people want to learn and stay with you, right? To stay focused on what you're teaching. And then the last one is what do you want people to do as a result of your information? And I think that's a really important one. Most people forget that part, believe it or not. And they go, okay, well, thanks for having me. But they forget to say, we have a program coming up that we'd love to enroll you in. We've got a worksheet that we want you to fill out and take a selfie and send it to our group, right? So then now you can gamify your presentation so that people are now engaged.
Mhm.
So the doing part is the part that people forget the most, and we help with the most so that all of your good work is not just left with, thanks for having me. I hope you have a good day.
Mhm.
So that would be kind of that's one tool that we use right away just to get people oriented to the feel that they want to create in the room, the learning environment, setting the context for your presentation so that people stay with you.
Beautiful. So it sounds like for you really having these as cornerstones of, how you frame any presentation, any speaking engagement, that's something you've been doing for years now, and that even to this day in this moment right before getting on this call, right? You're still orienting yourself with these questions. You're helping yourself get clear first, and that this is one of many practical tools that you connect with to help you be in this energy of one step ahead, knowing that you have the right orientation before you begin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's like the thinking of it as you're setting your intention
Hmm.
for the program. And that setting of the program, that setting that of intention helps you then with then the following structure, right? Do we have anybody on this call who rambles or who goes off on tangents? This just doing that, those three steps will help you just stay structured and oriented uh, for the time that you have for your audience, so that then you can stay nimble. You can stay one step ahead even in your presentation.
Brilliant. Um, and it's so practical and it's so simple and yet very, holistic in its approach, right? Being able to approach the mind, being able to approach the emotions, being able to approach the embodied behaviors, right, that we're inspiring as
Yeah.
leaders and as speakers. I'm curious, speaking maybe then to the opposite or the contrast of this energy of struggle that you see speakers, presenters, leaders being in, the places that they struggle. And you as well, being somebody that's very much been on your path and learning through direct experience, could you give us an example of a time when maybe a speaking engagement didn't go as planned, or a presentation, right? Or you maybe supporting a client, where did things break down in that, and how did your intuition maybe speak up or help you reflect on that experience? What did you learn from it, and what happened there?
Great question.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had a situation recently, actually. I was the keynote speaker for Women in Construction, which is a long, it's like a week-long celebration all over the country. Uh, and so I was the keynote speaker. And normally I like to do a survey beforehand just to get people conversing with me, asking some questions around, what are they struggling with, and what would they like support on in terms of if you could improve three areas of your work. I didn't have time to do that, and so I felt like I walked in a little bit too cold for my um for my taste.
Hmm.
And there was a lot of kind of negative press that week also around women, and in terms of rights being taken away and things that are changing for women that are extremely stressful and very painful. So so anyway, the room was very cold. There was not a lot of excitement in the room. And I realized that I wasn't whatever I was bringing, it was not working. And so I flipped the front of the room to the back of the room. Everyone had kind of gone to the back of the room and was seated. And so I ended up I flipped the room in the moment, and became the back of the room now became the front of the room. And just that change alone brought, first of all, everybody really tightly together. And
Hmm.
now we were in this intimate conversation. And instead of me talking, I was now asking questions of the audience and having them stand up and having them share. And so being nimble and realizing that, like, I have a saying, if I'm bored with myself, the audience is definitely bored. And I was bored with my topic, with what I was bringing. I wanted to hear from them.
Hmm.
And so I thought, I'm going to give them the microphone. And so together, now we talked about what was really going on, about the struggles, about and then did some exercises. So being comfortable pivoting
Hmm.
and changing the energy in the room is a really great way, if you feel like that it's just not flowing. And then I also moved up. I had a red carpet walk that we were going to do, and that was going to be towards the end. And I decided to move that up as the second activity to get everybody up and moving on their feet.
Hmm.
And so that's again something that I would really encourage is, don't ever doubt the capability of having somebody even stand up and do something in the room that gets people moving,
Hmm.
that gets people engaging with each other, and be willing to take risks and get people trying different things, asking questions. So drop into chat, what are 5 questions I could ask that really deepen the learning of this of my topic, and have those at the ready so that you can now share the oxygen.
What a beautiful example. Thank you for sharing it. I really feel like I was in that room with you, feeling the certain lack of preparation, the sensitivity to that somber energy, that cold energy. And so I love the way that you walked us through that too, just that sense of, okay, if I'm bored with myself, the audience is definitely going to be bored with me. And so there's a
Right.
certain level of humility that you're role modeling, right? It's like it's not that, even with the right toolkit that we don't find ourselves in moments where we're like, oof, like even with the right questions asked or, a certain level of experience, I'm still always going to be learning and finding myself in moments where I'm like, ugh, the way that I'm approaching this isn't working. And then through that being able to go, okay, so what tools do I have? Not just how to start well, but how to adapt well, how to be flexible, how to be willing to let things change, and everything that you role modeled there of being, available to you. And I know you go so much deeper in the training because even as a speaker, I'm taking my own notes like, oh yeah, I could do that. That's an option too, right? So anybody that's listening that does any level of public speaking or presentation or group work, like Kendall, you are such a wealth of resource and experience, and I know that this is your passion, and it's so clear why, right? You have so much to share in this, but thank you for, yeah, sharing from that lens of being in the trenches with us, right? That you have regular moments of, oh, this isn't working, and so how do I adapt? And knowing that we can always, it's that very the willingness to be in that mindset, not just when you start, but even throughout the presentation, right? That once you get the train going, it's not just committed to one track, but that you're always in that present moment, adapting and being flexible and really inviting your audience to contribute. Right? Knowing
Right.
it's not just a presentation, isn't just the delivery of information, but it's an experience that you're co-creating with the people that you're having, like you said, a conversation with.
Yes. Yeah, so as an example, like I teach, people just like if this is pen is your content, to hold it like this, more like this,
Mm.
right? People are like, oh, I memorized every word, but it didn't come out. But it's like just hold it more like this and put the connection to your audience first. And then this content, this fits inside the connection.
Hmm.
And we connect through our eyes. We connect only through our eyes and our open body posture. So if we're looking at our slides, we're going to not have a very good evaluation because people will immediately fall away as you fall away. And
Hmm.
so always that's part of what the training is all about is offering available eyes to your audience, and that's most important first is connecting. It was only because I was connecting with those ladies that I felt that the energy was low.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I got the content, but the connection is really not great here. So I need to get in the trenches with them. I'm going to go into the back of the room with them.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, haha, now we're back here together.
Oh, so good. And I'm curious, Kendall, from your perspective, decades in doing this work, bringing these tools and this training to every industry, I'm sure. Like, why is it important? What impact does somebody saying yes to having this training, whether as an individual leader or a leader that might be able to bring Coleman coaching on to train an entire team of theirs, like what's the impact that you see of this training really bringing about in individual lives and in organizations?
Hmm. I think from my own experience as at a young age, realizing that public speaking really is a terrifying fear, and it doesn't need to be. And so I decided young that I wanted to disrupt public speaking fear for good
Mm.
so that people could, when the topics mattered most, that people would have that place inside them that they could say, well, I'm going to speak up about this, or I'm going to clarify what was said because that's actually not true. Or, right. And so having courage obviously is a huge aspect of public speaking. And we do that by giving it reps. And the more reps and the more we raise our hand in meetings and force ourselves to say, okay, I'm going to, once a day I'm going to speak up in a meeting, or once a day I'm going to post something that talks about my work, or challenging ourselves in that way. It keeps the reps going. But public speaking is a muscle, and so that's the piece that I'm so passionate about, keeping it in front of people as a training, as a coaching, as a practice, that it's when we get the reps in, now all of a sudden we don't even know it, but now we're speaking in front of the board, and or now we're in front of a fireside chat at South by Southwest, or
Mm.
hey, I can raise my hand now to go speak at that conference because this topic really matters, and now I want to be the voice of that. I want to be the voice of that topic because nobody else is speaking up for it. And so to me, it opens up. Not only is there so much research about how public speaking will affect your career positively and your wealth. I mean, you can look up, there's lots of research on how it affects your wealth. But in terms of our well-being and our fulfillment of life and our relationships, the sky's the limit. And I feel like if we give in to our public speaking fear, we shrink. And if we open ourselves up and realize it's just a conversation one to one, like there could be 40 people here on the call, and I would still feel like I'm talking with Celeste.
Mm.
That's how that's how it works. And so seeing the possibilities are endless for our world, for our society, for our relationships, and for our fulfillment if we teach ourselves the public speaking skills that are needed most.
Hmm. Thank you. I see it. I
Thank
feel it.
you.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this work and thank you for helping disrupt the fear of public speaking for good. That there is a way that it doesn't have to be that way, and that when we have these tools, every area of our life thrives for the better when we feel the courage, when we have access to the courage to speak our truth, to raise our hand, to be the voice for what we care about, for what matters to us. Um, and so
Yeah,
my
and you do that. You do that so beautifully too, because without your pieces, you're teaching people how to be courageous and how to make brave decisions and how to live more aligned so that they can be fulfilled. And then the two of us together, right? Then what's that language sound like when you say to your husband or your wife, and I want to make some changes because I'm not fulfilled, and I'm going to show up 100% for it, and it's going to work out, but I need to have this conversation with you, right? That, like, without those skills, then our courage is sort of saying I'm ready to go, but I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those who are tuning in, like, okay, I get it. I need it. I want more. I want to learn what
Yeah.
do you have going on in the coming weeks and months that people can get more involved? What's on the calendar for Coleman Coaching, and how can people take a next step?
Yes. So monthly, we are now offering our master class that is impact speaker training. And that is just 1 hour so that you can learn a little bit more of what we talked about today. So that's a monthly masterclass that just go to our website, Colman Coaching, for those next dates for that masterclass. The next one right now is May 27th at 9 a.m. Pacific, and that's 2026. And then if you're ready to go even beyond that, you really want to dive in and get this practice and get the tools and the skills and the community, then join us May 1st in Denver, Colorado for a full day program. And that is our Speak with Impact program, 3 steps to inform and inspire for the presentations that matter. And so that could be for any industry leader, any mission-minded entrepreneur. You will love this full day program. We do have 9 seats left as of this morning. So would love to have you for that. And then join us for our monthly podcast, the One Step Ahead podcast.
Incredible. And that's going to be where can people find the podcast?
That's going to be on our YouTube channel at Colman
Okay,
Coaching at YouTube. So it's Colman with no E. And
perfect.
everything will be below, so you can find these links below.
In the show notes, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. Yeah.
In the show notes. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. And also, just if somebody wants to get in touch with you specifically about continuing to either receive coaching directly or get in touch about, maybe other live events or custom trainings with
Yes.
their teams or organizations, what could that look like as well?
Yes, so absolutely you can schedule a discovery session. So if you already know right away that you'd like to either work one-to-one or have us come in and work with your team, which by the way, for the customers and clients that have been with us for decades, they say it's their highest rated training. And
Mm,
so that is something just to keep in mind that it's also a team building. So that you can just email me at tlc@colmancoaching.com. That's tlc@colmancoaching.com, and we'll get you all set up for that discovery clarity breakthrough session. And then you can also look me up on LinkedIn as well, and we can connect there to get started.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kendall, for your time, for your wisdom, for your stories, for your heart, for your devotion to really being a
Mhm.
stand for leaders to overcome their fear of public speaking and unlock all of the possibilities that exist on the other side of that fear and really helping to pave the way that your field hockey coach helped pave for you all those years ago to really show us that there is
I
another
know.
path. That there is another way. There is a way to be able to choose courage, to be able to choose being a stand for and a voice for what we deeply care about, and being able to inspire not only ourselves, our families, our communities, our teams, through the way that we get to embody this in our professional lives and our personal as well. So just thank you for all that you do, for inviting me to be the guest host on this first um, sharing of the One Step Ahead podcast. And it's also my deepest desire that this message reach everybody that it's meant to, and that yeah, that the world is better for it. Mm.
Thank you. And thank you. I want to just shout out to you, Celeste, because first of all, I mean, just the leader that I see in you continually, and this is why, of course, we love having you as one of our success coaches, is that you're so dedicated, curious, you're forthright, you're so courageous in the way you live your life and that you're living it boldly and in line with what your highest wisdom is calling you forward. And you're sharing that to so many people, and I just want to acknowledge you for always digging deep, staying with the conversation even when things get hard, which I've seen you do with so many people, where you're really digging deep, and it's like the most amazing breakthrough. So if you, anyone listening right now, would also like a brave and courageous coach who helps lead the way for you, then you've got to hire Celeste.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You truly are a remarkable person.
mm, well, thank you. I guess I can put my contact information in the
Yeah,
show notes
please.
as well for anybody that's curious to explore that as well,
Yeah.
to do the private life coaching and leadership coaching that I offer. Thank you for that shout out.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm,
Absolutely.
so much
All
love to
right.
you.
So much love. Thank you all.
Thank you.